Hey everyone, welcome to my espresso granita video recipe. Today we're going to be using some honey, premium granulated sugar, and vanilla to sweeten the espresso granita. We're going to be using two of these glass ones. I've tried to find two that were as similar as possible so that the surface area could be the same, so that we can compare our experiments to each other. We've got a metal mixing bowl to make the mixtures in. And then here I have some fresh espresso being created. So we'll come back when this is done. Pretty simple recipe, and I've halved it so that we can make two batches because I don't want too much espresso granita. Got 1/2 cup of water, got 2.5 tablespoons of sugar, and I've halved the sugar. And the conversion that we're going to be using later is going to be calling for only 1 tablespoon of honey. And then I've got a few splashes of vanilla, and I have some piping hot espresso right here, which is 1/2 cup. Just gonna pour it in, and since it's super hot, I'm gonna start stirring and explain to you why we do this while it's now hot. The sugar's all been dissolved, and we've stirred it, and we're just gonna let it sit here, or I'm just gonna let it sit in its glass and cool down. And so some important roles of sugar. We've used granulated table sugar here, is that it balances acidity and bitterness and saltiness. It's able to enhance flavor perception. It provides some viscosity, binds moisture, and helps brown and caramelize. Today we're going to be using table sugar, and another scientific name for that is sucrose. And sucrose is made up of glucose and fructose, and it's known to have a pleasant sweetness even at high concentrations. It's extremely soluble, as you can just see right here, and it's got a really thick viscosity. Now, we're also taking advantage of something called inversion, and it's a reference to its optical properties. And that's when heat or enzymes will break down the sucrose into glucose and fructose. And table sugar is actually 99.85% pure. And there's 4 types: large grain, granulated, which we're using today, fine grain, and powder. I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of honey to the other batch, and then we'll be back to see how they're going to rest. We have our 2 different granita mixtures. The one on the left is table sugar, and the one on the right is honey. And some interesting facts we learned during class are about sugar crystals, actually. So one thing we need to establish is what a seed is. Seeds are actually just a few sugar molecules that go ahead and join together. And when you stir, you increase that crystal formation. And there's 3 requirements: purity, concentration, and temperature. And we know that hot liquids hold more dissolved solids than cold, which is why I went ahead and made it really hot before letting it go to room temperature before putting it inside of the freezer. And the concentration part involves molecules that must be close enough together in order to form these crystals. And crystals, as we learned during lecture, are molecules of pure substance that solidify as a set pattern. So yeah, stirring these hot liquids help encourage molecules to arrange, forming these seeds, which grow, and then waiting until the liquid cools will actually create lots of smaller crystals, which is what we want for a really good espresso granita. So I'm going to wait for these to settle. I'm going to put these into the freezer for about 1.5 hours. And then after that 1.5 hours, I'm going to go ahead and stir them in 30-minute increments until we reach 3 hours. And then we're going to see how they taste. Here they are in the freezer, and I'll see you in an hour. We have our granitas after 1.5 hours. And something about ice crystals that we know are that all ices contain at least some sort of puree, sugar, water, and sometimes lemon juice. And the unfrozen syrup coats the ice crystals, and the sugar concentration is very key. And in granitas, it's around 15 to 20% sugar, and they have to be stirred in increments. So I'm going to stir them. This one is honey. You can see that it's still liquidy, and you just want to keep stirring. Then we can see our sugar crystals. The sugar actually has frozen a little bit more solid than the honey right now. The honey's still a little bit more liquid. And we'll see in 30 minutes after I put them back in the freezer. Right, this is after about 2 hours. I'm gonna stir it. It's already getting pretty solid. I think I only need to wait about 45 more minutes before it turns the consistency I want. You can see that the sugar actually crystallizes a lot more solid, and it sticks to the glass way more than the honey one. The honey one is way looser. And some interesting facts about honey is that it's very hygroscopic, and it keeps breads and cakes, and in this case, our ice moist, and it has natural antioxidants that slow staling. It's slightly acidic, and it helps reduce sugars and accelerates browning. And it's not to be confused with maple syrup, because honey's the stuff that we get from bees. Here we go. This is after about 2.5 hours. This is our honey mixture. You can see that the honey is like more homogenized than the sugar mixture. The sugar mixture is much more flaky and crunchy and solid, while the honey is a lot more liquidy. So I think that in the end, I would prefer to eat the sugar one, but I'm about to try both of them right now, and then we'll see which one I like better. I gotta say I prefer the sugar one, just because it seems to have more body, and it's a lot more flaky and solid, and the honey just takes way longer to freeze, and even the frozen flaky parts, they're just a little bit too soft for me. I like it almost like ice. So thank you so much for watching my video. I hope you learned something.